And ladies and gentlemen, it's now time for your main event. In this corner, from parts unknown, coming in at a combined weight of 532 pounds, the J. Brown Express. And in this corner, utilizing the Freebird rules, your tag team champions of the world, at a combined weight of 832 pounds, the Brothers in Kayfabe.
And ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to the Brothers in Kayfabe podcast. I'm Jake, one of the aforementioned three brothers in Kayfabe. You know, being brothers is a work for us, but we're basically shoot brothers at this point. To my right, actually to the left of the Zoom meeting here, that would be the newcomer to the territory, Mr. Triple J, Jimmy Jackson. Go ahead, Jimmy.
What's up? Hey, Jimmy here. Just excited once again to get together and talk wrestling. Last week I was a little more energetic. I had a Ric Flair woo in me, but I think this week's a little more subdued. So that's all right. You know, you have ups and you have downs, and wrestling's always there.
You got that right, man. I feel that to a T this week with the subduedness, man. But well, to my actual right in the Zoom meeting here, to the right of looks like the room that they're recording in together. That would be the man with more wrestling knowledge in his little pinky than my entire body. That would be Mr. Wrestling Landon Bumgarner. Go ahead, bro.
Hey, what's up, guys? I'll jump in with you guys. I feel not as excited this week, but not unhappy, if that makes sense. I'm stoked. I'm excited to talk about wrestling all across the board with you guys this week. But at the same time, it's like, man, I don't have a hacksaw hoe in me this week.
That's what I'm saying, man. It's a different vibe. Well, it's because I think really what it is we're just so anticipatory of this corporate Money in the Bank. I think we're all nervous.
Absolutely.
Dude, I mean, I'm so nervous that, you know, Aleister Black is saying that he's going to throw AJ out of the room, like off the tower. And
here's my
so,
thing.
you know, I'm afraid that Uncle Alan will die again.
Alan's going to die again. Well, he's back. Which that does lead me to a question I have for you guys. But before that, did you hear the rumor that they're doing the men and women's at the same time? Is that for real?
Yeah.
I
don't know if it's true.
I don't know how to comprehend the match.
How do you do, like, if you
Here's
have
how I would do it.
Aleister Black climbing a ladder to get one, and then you have Asuka climbing a ladder to get one, do they attack each other? It makes no sense to me.
I'd love that. I'd love that. I'd love if they were all going after one briefcase.
Oh my gosh.
Both matches, one briefcase. But no, dude, the way I would do it is if you just start them at the beginning of the pay-per-view, then go about your normal pay-per-view business, and then cut in through the whole night of them. They start in the parking lot. They have to brawl into the building. And then, you're just checking in, oh, we just got this footage that, Asuka just killed Alexa Bliss, and she's literally murdered. And my Alexa that sits on my desk here at the in Studio JK just went off whenever I talked about Bliss. So
there you go. Well, are they gonna fight in Vince's office?
That's what I was just about to bring up. There has to be a shot of someone getting slammed into the T-Rex skull.
Dude, I would be so happy.
Dude, if I want him to go to Triple H's office and someone slam him into his titles that he has up on the wall.
You know what would be a great callback? Jake, do you remember, it was 2012, 2013 during the Triple H Brock Lesnar feud, when Brock went to Triple H's office and just destroyed it? Would that not be a great callback if they go in Triple H's office and it's still destroyed?
It's already
Like they don't
destroyed?
even
No,
acknowledge
so
it.
here's
Like just have AJ
how you do it.
just say a quick little something about it.
They go to Triple H's office, and it's still destroyed, and Brock Lesnar is just sitting there.
And then Brock Lesnar interferes into the match and wins Money in the Bank.
Oh my gosh. Yes.
Dude,
What if
the smart marks would lose their mind.
Okay, what if Brock comes what if Vince forgot that he had Brock come in at the end of Money in the Bank and win it last year and he just does it again?
Well, remember what we talked about if Brock shows up in the Thanos copter.
Yes.
The Thanos copter.
Like, I've never been a fan
Brock-
of, like, repeating the same endings to matches. Like, no matter who it is, it's like, oh, cool. Like, it's literally the same outcome as it was last time. But I would come unglued if Brock Lesnar shows up in a helicopter with Paul Heyman and, like, climbs down the little flimsy ladder, grabs the briefcase, and then they fly off with Brock still, like, clinging to, like, the flimsy ladder.
Can we have another block?
That would be beautiful.
Another Brock party?
Dude, we might.
Dude, I loved the Brock party.
I'm just saying, I'm cool with
It was
quarantine.
the most entertaining he'd been in years.
I'm cool with quarantine if we keep getting weird match locations. Like, give me a pay-per-view that's, like, on a cruise ship to where it's just like, hey, 6 superstars at sea, only one can make it back to land, and the winner will face Brock
Speaking of
Lesnar.
that,
Okay, I'm interested.
I read a deal earlier. There is a rumor that SummerSlam will be at Hogan's private beach in Florida.
Stop.
Greatest SummerSlam ever.
I will
Right.
lose it.
They have a Hogan's Beach House brawl.
Dude, I'm just saying, if there's a part where, like, Hulk Hogan and Jimmy Hart are just, like, cooking out on the grill, and, like, Aleister Black
With
like,
knobs
accidentally kills Jimmy Hart with a kick, and then Hulk Hogan gets involved.
Here's what I'm saying. Just hear me out. John Cena heel turn, SummerSlam at Hogan's Beach. Call back to when Hogan joined the NWO.
At Bash at the Beach.
At Bash at the Beach. That's what, like, you have, like, your baby face, whoever, McIntyre's getting beat up. They lead up a thing. I'd be into it.
Does this mean the entrance area is going to be, like, the back porch doors of Hogan's house? And, like, they'll walk out on the deck and do their entrance and then, like, walk down into the sand where a ring is?
And Brooke is just, like, poolside tanning the whole time, like, not giving a crap about all the stuff going on.
Brooke she'll sing the national anthem.
Of course she will.
Right. America the Beautiful.
Dude.
We're different.
And the most fitting time for Matt Riddle to come out with slides on.
Yeah.
Bro.
He's not even in a match. He's just hanging at the pool.
He's just there. He's getting high with Hogan.
And knobs.
Probably.
Did y'all see his tweets on 420?
Matt Riddle?
Yeah, he just put up, I think he only put up 2 tweets, and one was just him doing that big, goofy Matt Riddle smile, and it just said, "It's here." And then the last one was him giving the goofiest frown ever, and he's like, "It's over."
I'm just saying it's not going to happen in the WWE, but when the day comes and Matt Riddle leaves the WWE, I'm talking like WrestleMania weekend at like a WrestleCade, Matt Riddle and RVD teaming up. And they could just be
Honestly.
like, oh my gosh,
the High Flyers or something like
The
that.
High Flyers.
the High Flyers.
Oh,
And they're both in green.
Exactly.
that would be so amazing. And then Hornswoggle's the ballet.
Take my money already. Like,
Yeah.
but yeah, so I was gonna say something about, we were talking about Money in the Bank. Did y'all also see that Cody Rhodes came out and said that he was scheduled to win in both 11 and 12
No.
for Money in the Bank, and for whatever reason, both years in a row they changed it day of.
Well, who won 11 and 12?
Let me look it up. Talk amongst
Because
yourselves.
I think by 11 and 12, they might have switched to, I think by 12 for sure, but maybe even 11 they'd switch to there's a Raw and SmackDown Money in the Bank briefcase.
I think so, because 11 was whenever CM Punk won the title. I'm pulling it up. 2011.
Because 2011
so-
might be the first year that Money in the Bank was its own pay-per-view and not at WrestleMania.
2010 was the first year that it was its own pay-per-view, and that was the year Miz and Kane won the briefcases. But the years that Cody was supposedly scheduled to win was 2011, whenever Cena lost to Punk, and the Money in the Bank winners were Del Rio and Daniel Bryan. So I want to say he was on SmackDown at that time.
Yeah, because
so that
Legacy
means he would have been
split up.
Yes, and I think he was dashing at that point.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, I have a question about Money in the Bank, real quick. This is kind of one of the things I wanted to talk about, which was it's twofold. One, I want to hear your guys' thoughts on who's going to win each match this weekend. So, just as a rundown, just thoughts on what you think might happen. Because personally, I thought the lineups for each Money in the Bank, specifically, and more specifically, the men's lineup was I couldn't just tell right away who I thought was going to win. So you have in the women's, you have Asuka, Shayna Baszler, Nia Jax, Dana Brooke, Lacey Evans, and Carmella. Who do you guys think's taking the briefcase?
If I was guessing what Vince would want, it would be
Exactly.
Nia Jax or Shayna Baszler.
Really?
Yeah.
See, I'm going Lacey. I'm thinking they're putting a rocket on Lacey.
I want Lacey to win. I think
I
with just her natural face turn, like over the last couple of months, I think this is a great opportunity to we need a good, solid, strong baby face.
Especially with the rumor of Lynch going part-time.
Right.
I mean, if that happens, which...
She's the top babyface in the company.
I know. And when's the last time you never see her anymore, I feel like?
I really would like to see Dana Brooke taken to that level. I think she can do a lot, and I think that they haven't given her a chance to show what she can do. So she could be like the dark horse of that match, but I see Lacey winning it, but I really just think that Vince is on that Nia Jax, Shayna Baszler. Well, damn, look at them. They're specimens.
I love all the stuff on Twitter about how unsafe Nia Jax is, and there was a clip from her, I think from Raw this week, as she is moving this the red rope of that you'd see on a red carpet. She's moving past it, and it was breaking news: rope injured during incident with Nia Jax on Monday Night Raw. Out indefinitely. Follow WWE.com for more medical updates.
That's amazing.
That's fantastic.
Okay.
So
you guys
the men's match.
So Jake, you're going Nia Jax, Shayna, and we both said Lacey. Okay, men's match. This is the one that was a little perplexing because I could see it going to multiple, but there's not a clear victor that I can see. So you have
I see one.
You have Daniel Bryan, Rey Mysterio, Aleister Black, King Corbin. Very excited about this one. Otis, my boy Otis.
Oh yeah.
And then of course as we're recording this last night on Raw, AJ Styles back from the dead, declared that he's not a ghost, he's not a zombie. He's here. He also said just because he got buried alive literally doesn't mean he lost the Boneyard match. So is the Boneyard match still going? Is it going in perpetuity? I don't know.
Is it going to continue at Hogan's private beach at SummerSlam?
I can only hope. So
Does Taker come out of one of the HQ offices and
Dude, that would
destroy
be
AJ?
I'm
incredible.
just saying, if it does happen at SummerSlam, what if like Metallica starts blasting and you look out like on the horizon of the ocean and you see
And he's on-
Undertaker like on a Sea-Doo?
dude, yeah. It's like the Tiger
and-
King
Exactly.
with James.
And
James
Hulk
Barrett
Hogan is
singing.
playing bass in the background.
Yes. Oh, Metallica plays him in, and Hogan is playing bass with Metallica.
I'm just saying, if we get some more crazy like Firefly Funhouse type stuff at SummerSlam, and Hulk Hogan's playing bass for Bray Wyatt at some point, like during the weirdness.
I have a question for you too. So Hogan likes to play bass, right? Does he play bass like way down here, or is he like one of these real tall, like let's get him up here by the neck bass players?
I think Hogan wears his bass so low that he can't even
Like
play
nowadays, he can't play it.
I don't think Hogan
Yeah,
can
'cause
ever
his
really
back doesn't work.
play bass, is what I think.
Hey,
Hot
according
take.
to him, he was gonna play for Metallica.
Did you?
Right.
Yeah, but then they asked James Hetfield, and then he said that never happened.
Well,
It's a freaking.
we never
work.
let the truth get in the way.
Listen,
of a good
who
story.
do you trust, Hulk Hogan or Metallica?
which
I mean,
Which one's done a better job for the wrestling business?
Metallica.
Metallica.
Literally Metallica.
Metallica has kept backyard wrestling and indie wrestling alive up until 2012, whenever Undertaker and Triple H started using Metallica for their entrances.
I'm saying. Okay.
okay. So the match.
Yeah, let's go back to the. Let's stop talking about Hogan's bass playing. Okay, so Jake, you said you have one. Landon, who do you think?
So I'm going to split this into two. I think it's got to be either Otis or Aleister Black that's going to win. Because if Aleister, this is the way I see it. If Aleister wins, like he'll get the regular Money in the Bank push. I don't want Otis to win because I could see him doing like the super underdog thing where they give it to him and he's going to go to cash it in and someone's going to cost him it and it's just wasted and he doesn't ever get to use it. That being
Dolph
said,
Ziggler.
I selfishly really want AJ to win.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Jake, who do you think?
In the match, I took it as this: Daniel Bryan and Rey Mysterio. They're not going to give it to them.
No, I didn't think so.
I don't see them giving it to AJ unless they just want to get that stat line on his career.
Yeah.
Like, it would be like if AJ went out and won the Royal Rumble this year. It's because they know he's about to retire and they want that stat line on his record.
Yeah.
King Corbin has already won it, and as much as Vince likes people with dual like titles, I don't think that they would run with King Money in the Bank Corbin.
I would hope not.
Otis is who I want to win the match because I want to see what that would be like.
Yeah.
Because Otis is like the most over person in that company with me right now. I love that dude. Like, gotta represent Fat Boys get the girl every once in a while. Stakes and weights, bro. But
Hams and slams.
the first person that like really just stuck out to me that I was like I could see them strapping the Rocket to is Aleister Black. And that's just because he's been booked so strong recently. Like, and it's been deceivedly strong because like nobody's paying attention to him. So then it's like he could be that out of nowhere for people. They were like, oh, well, Aleister Black isn't going to win that match. And that's exactly what Vince wants.
Yeah. I can see that. I have to go. I think either Alistair or AJ are my two, like the ones that I think are the top running. I don't know. I want, like you guys, I want Otis to get it, but I also am like, I feel bad for Tucker.
Dude, rest in peace. He's
Right.
the Jannetty.
Dude, he literally is. Who
would?
Everyone thought that it was going to be the other way around. Like,
Yeah, who would have ever thought that Otis was going to be Shawn? Like,
oh my gosh, yeah, having some real
he's the
rosy days, you know.
He's the heart-eating kid,
Yeah.
Because you can't tell me that dude hasn't eaten like a lamb heart or something before.
Oh,
Like,
raw.
easily.
He's eating it raw. He's gonna eat one on Raw after he wins Money in the Bank. He's gonna eat a raw heart on Raw.
Dude, he might.
they're gonna hype it up like the Edge and Lita live
God.
celebration, and then it's just gonna be him in the middle of the ring with like a whole side of ham, like.
Just challenge.
And he's just gonna be doing those Otis looks,
Yeah.
But I mean, I think that's the only reason they added AJ to the match, because has he been in a Money in the Bank before?
He's been
I don't
in
remember.
one. I want to say it was 2016 or 2017.
So yeah, like I could see them adding him to that just so they can be like, okay, AJ's Mr. Money in the Bank. He's 3-time WWE champion. What a career.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I can see it. Here's my question. So you have your champions. You have Braun, and you have Drew.
Right.
When you take that into consideration, and your female champions too. Let's talk about them. What's the matchup though that you'd want to see? Like Alistair and Drew, I think would be a really fun match.
Yeah.
Or like Otis and Braun. Come on now.
Well, you also got to remember we have 2 babyface champions right now.
It's true. But and is that going to change? Because here's the thing. I mean, I guess while we're talking, I didn't really want to talk this about Money in the Bank before we saw it, but I am curious. Like, does Braun keep the title? Do they have him?
I don't think so.
They have him, so they just give him the title and they have him lose to Bray. Like that. It just seems, again, it's that whole thing of like Braun could have been someone. I could have been someone.
I think them giving Braun the title was their way of getting it back to the Fiend, because they were like, we messed up. I mean,
would be interesting. Then they have the Fiend lose to Roman. Possibly.
That brings me right into something I wanted to talk about. If Landon doesn't have anything more to add onto this.
I have one thing, but I think we can skip it. It's fine. It's not that exciting. I'm interested to hear what you have to say, Jake.
Landon, do you have anything more to add before I change the subject?
I'm excited for Money in the Bank, mainly just
same.
the corporate match. And I'll be honest, it's going to be one of those shows. I'll start it a couple hours after it starts, and I'll fast forward through the stuff that's not interesting.
Totally. Same.
So,
okay, so yeah,
Roman.
You had mentioned something about Roman before we started recording.
Roman, right. Okay. Y'all know that he's not been mentioned on TV. You can't mention him on TV, blah, 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 right?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did either of you watch any of Raw last night?
I saw some highlights, but I didn't
That's
see
all I did was watch highlights.
anything else.
Okay. So, I didn't watch Raw at all, but I saw what I needed to see. And kind of like y'all, I watched highlights. I really don't watch Raw or SmackDown for the most part. Because it just doesn't grab me anymore. So for some reason they showed a video package of Seth Rollins cashing in his Money in the Bank briefcase.
Okay.
On, and then so it shows him come down the ramp, give the briefcase to the ref. He does the curb stomp to Lesnar.
Okay.
And then the video package cuts to black, and the next thing you see is him raising the title.
Okay.
I did see this.
I did not.
Who did he pin in that match? Do y'all know?
Roman Reigns.
Who did he pin to win the title? Roman Reigns. They cut out the part where he pins Roman Reigns You don't even see Roman Reigns in the entire video package. And it's like that he was a really important part of that whole match, like the whole makeup of that.
Because Jimmy, you haven't seen this match, have you? So
No,
the
I
match
haven't.
is Roman Reigns versus Brock Lesnar, first time ever. It's a big, heavy-hitting match. It's where Suplex City was born. So they have this match. And
Yeah.
Is this the one where Brock opens Roman
Mhm.
with his elbows?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and he just demolishes Roman
And
Reigns
so
through this
towards
match.
the end of the match, Seth Rollins comes sprinting down the ring with his briefcase. He goes in, hits the curb stomp on Brock. It tries to pin him. It doesn't work. Brock suplexes him a couple of times. Brock picks him up for the F5. Roman spears Brock. So Brock's on the ground. Seth gets up. I think he hits a pedigree and then curb stomps Roman, pushes Brock out of the ring. So Brock is laying on the outside
Yeah.
and pins Roman to win the match.
Whoa. Okay.
And they completely cut all of that out for this video package.
Well, do you think that's? I mean, what? Why? What's the deal?
Because he's weak.
I think that's what it is. Obviously, we're not going to know until one of the parties go public. But and I love Vince and I hate Vince at times, but I mainly love him.
Right.
But he does have a history of if you let him down when you're in that top spot, that he's unforgiving. You look at anyone who's ever gotten the world title and gotten injured after receiving it, they don't touch that for
Right.
a long time. I mean, most recently is with Finn, but you
Yeah.
even look at Batista finally winning the world title, and he loses it, and Batista doesn't get it back till the end of the year.
Yeah,
Like, comes back
but
and
Batista's not really
go ahead.
a good example of that because he had a whole lot more runs on top after that.
Yeah, but just the idea that it's like, hey, like he's gonna come back, get his title back immediately. It was like, well, actually, no, you're gonna feud in the upper mid card for a couple of months, and then you'll go back to the top. But there's some people to where it's like, hey, here's your one shot, especially for smaller guys. If you drop that ball, whether it's your fault or not, like it comes across as like, well, he's injury prone because the one time he gets hurt is the one time he can't afford to be hurt.
Dude. Wow.
And I think guys like Samoa Joe and even Rey Mysterio, once Rey started having his string of injuries to where it's like, hey, every 3 months I have to have knee surgery, I think
Right.
that's when it really comes to like, okay, we can't trust you because we can't put all this effort
And I
money
mean-
and time into building you if you're just going to have a really good chance of being hurt for a couple of months.
And I mean, the only reason Ray is in the company is to sell masks to Mexico and to be the workhorse in a match.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the Roman thing is so interesting to me because for like when I was first getting into wrestling, a couple years ago or whatever that it was now, almost 2 years ago, it was that thing of all anyone talked about was Roman. And it was, Roman's on
Right.
top. The last two WrestleManias were Roman and Lesnar, or whatever, and
Yeah.
and yada yada yada. And it was just, they're pushing Roman. They want Roman to be John Cena. They want and it's so weird that he has to leave the company because of his leukemia, which like fair enough. Like that's not bad at all. Like you gotta go do what you gotta do, and then he comes back. And people actually are cheering him because, like, he triumphed and, like, he's not getting shoved down your throat. And then all of a sudden, he's like, hey, like, I have a high risk. Also, my wife is pregnant with twins. I'm out. And then they just, like, erase him from the face of the planet.
I mean, if they're going to do it to Hulk Hogan, they'll do it to anybody.
Yeah. I mean,
It's true.
That's true. I mean, we talk about the dark times when Hulk Hogan was eradicated from WWE history to where, like, you couldn't buy new merch. Like, you couldn't search him on the net. Kind of like Jericho. I think right now, if you search Chris Jericho on the network, I don't think anything pops up. Like, obviously, you can still watch his stuff by going to cards that he was on.
Right.
Uh, but that would be an
They get
interesting thing to
Benoit.
try to see, like, if we search Roman Reigns, if you can still search him on the network.
Oh, I bet. But I don't know.
I bet you can. I don't know if they've taken it that far, but like this would be like if John Cena decided to sit out a show when he was at the top of his game,
Yeah.
and then all of a sudden, who's John Cena? Nobody gives a crap about John Cena.
Well, I mean, it's sort of funny. Like, some of the people, I mean, you look at it, some people have decided to set out at these Saudi shows, like Daniel Bryan
right.
and stuff, and it's like, and they're still okay. So
It makes me wonder if because of how weird WrestleMania was this year with the pandemic and the quarantine and stuff, and WWE taking that huge hit of like, crap, we're not having WrestleMania. There goes several $1 million. And if Vince was like,
Right.
hey, like, everyone that's on board, like, we need you here. Like this is a defining moment for us as a company. And I could see it the same way as if Edge were to have backed out, I could very easily see Vince being like, okay, well, Edge got to come back at the Rumble. That's where it ends.
that was it.
There's
Yeah.
no match or nothing,
Right.
events like that, or like. And I think that's one of those things to where I would not be surprised if we see Goldberg back before we see Roman. Because I could see Vince being like, well, I'll shell out the money for Goldberg because at least Goldberg's reliable. And it's like, it's a sucky position for Reigns because it's like, you do have those genuine health concerns. Like,
Yeah.
absolutely. Like, I have
Right.
friends who are cancer survivors, and they're like, yeah, like, I can't go to church or I can't go to the store because because my body can't defend itself. It's like, I totally get that. But unfortunately, he's in a line of work to where it's like, hey, either you perform or you're not welcomed here. Like, there's no room to like step off because it's not like a regular career where you could take off like, hey, like, I sold out this arena partially because of your name. We can't show up and not have that, which, like, the fans are going to be forgiving, but it makes me wonder if there's like corporate pressure to any degree. Just because it's like with the Fox deal, like, they were very clear, like, hey, we want Roman Reigns on SmackDown because he's one of your top stars.
Right.
And it's like, Roman hasn't been on in almost a month now. And it's like, is Fox going to be like, hey, like, you better get someone else to come lace up their boots that's going to be able to bring in that kind of viewership or that kind of power because we're not paying to have a subpar product.
And it's not like when John Cena got hurt back in the day because they were still every week, John Cena this and John Cena that.
Here's
Like,
John Cena stretching
it's
with
all-
rubber bands to heal his muscles.
Yeah. Here's video of him going into surgery. Don't forget about John Cena. It's like, no, Roman Reigns doesn't exist anymore.
I think it's
He's
time.
dead to us.
I think it's time for. I think it's time for Chainsaw Charlie to come back to the company, y'all.
Honestly, I'm just saying,
Exactly.
if you have the
For a run on
Fiend
top.
beat Braun at Money in the Bank, and then next week on SmackDown he's in the ring, like, just talking like his regular Bray Wyatt in the sweater, and all of a sudden the Firefly Funhouse comes on, and Husky the Pig's like talking or something, you just hear Chainsaw rev up, and Chainsaw Charlie comes out and starts just demolishing the set with a chainsaw.
Well, this is completely off topic, but I'm going to say it anyways. Landon and I like fantasy booked the Fiend when he first started,
Oh, yeah.
and so I'm just going to tell. I just want to listen. I want to tell our viewers what our fantasy book was. Basically, it was a WrestleMania match. It was the Fiend like terrorizes everyone. He terrorizes. I mean, his first match was against Fiend or against Finn, obviously, but
Yeah.
we had fantasy book because one of those first vignettes he did, he cut up that cardboard cutout of Bray Wyatt,
It's true.
Right.
with a chainsaw, and so our fantasy book was the Fiend with a chainsaw. It was the Fiend with a chainsaw is a triple threat versus Chainsaw Charlie versus the Demon Finn Balor when he had the chainsaw at the takeover, right? With
he was like Jack the Ripper.
Jack the Ripper, Demon Finn, with special guest referee, one Leatherface, the wrestler from Japan, the wrestler in Japan,
Corporal
Leatherface,
Kirshner.
Corporal Kirshner,
Yes,
that's
who he was. I
wrestled
couldn't
as
think of who it was.
who wrestled as Leatherface in Japan, and it was just going to be a chainsaw match.
There you
And
go.
I just don't see why that.
And I know this is off topic, but for our listeners, if you've never seen Leatherface wrestle in Japan, please go do it.
Oh my gosh!
Like that's horror
amazing.
wrestling done better than like Mankind, better than the Fiend, because it's like he's just going out in the crowd with a chainsaw with the chain still on.
Yeah, no, it's literally.
And there's a cage match where
Damn
he,
it, everybody!
he
This
just
is the only guy thinking here.
He just stands in the ring and just runs the chainsaw against the chain link, and so sparks are just flying everywhere. And it's just like it's terrifying.
It's amazing.
It's beautiful.
Yeah. So this, it's going to be really interesting to see how the whole Roman situation shakes out over time because, I don't hate Roman Reigns. I didn't watch wrestling through the time where he was, being pushed that hard. And he was still being pushed. And he's not the best, but honest to goodness, at this point in time, I would like to see him in an interesting storyline.
And it makes me wonder, if he does come back and they put him back in his spot, what do they do to acknowledge, hey, he's been gone for 3 months or 4 months? Because they're not going to be like, we haven't seen him since he backed out because of his autoimmune deficiency, or
yeah.
what could they do to build it back up? Because even if you do a promo to where it's like Roman Reigns returns next week, it's like, cool, where has he been? Because the last time we saw him, he was in the ring saying, "I'll see you at WrestleMania, Goldberg," and then the next day, they pull out and they announce 2 days before WrestleMania that Reigns is out and Braun is in, but they don't say why.
Hear me out. You can go two ways, okay? Not that this is a fantasy booking podcast, but it's one of my favorite things to do. One is
Welcome to Brothers in Fantasy Booking.
Right. One is you have AJ win Money in the Bank. AJ cashes on Braun if Braun beats Bray or whatever. Beats him for the title. Okay. Or beats McIntyre for the title. And then Roman comes out to challenge AJ. And what they did was they filmed a segment where it was Roman got buried by Undertaker 2. And that's ridiculous, I know. More importantly, here's another one, okay? This is one that I could see happening. You mentioned you bet Goldberg would be back before. Okay. The Fiend wins the title from Braun. Okay. The Fiend is terrorizing people or whatever. Goldberg comes back and is like, I beat you once. I put you in your place once. I'm going to do it again. Then you have Goldberg versus the Fiend rematch. Okay.
Okay.
I think Fiend wins, puts Goldberg in his place. And then you do a Saudi show, which is Goldberg versus Roman. But what happens is after Goldberg loses to the Fiend runs away, and then Roman comes out to the ring and basically spears Goldberg and just says you're next. Uses his own line.
Oh man.
And then that's leads into a Saudi show where it's Roman versus Goldberg. The match that we're gonna see at Mania. And
We're supposed to get.
That's the last time. And then I think that you could almost basically just be like, Roman was upset because he didn't get to face Goldberg like everybody thought he was. He wants that match. He's pissed. He's coming back with a vengeance. I think that's the way to actually do it. Like, I think that'd be really cool. Because I want to.
I'm not against that.
I would love to see Battle of the Spear.
Yeah, and
like,
that's
like Goldberg and Roman. Like that'd be
and
great.
that's a big ticket match. Like, regardless of what people think of, like, oh great, we get to watch Goldberg again, or like, oh, like they're forcing the belt on Reigns again. It's like, no, like that's as close to Cena Rock or Rock Hogan as we're gonna get, because you have like the guy who made the spear famous,
Right.
and then this other guy who's been trying to make this spear famous, who's like, and it's like the fact that Goldberg like was so quick to like start cutting Reigns down. He's like, hey, like, you played your little piddly Georgia football. I played the real Georgia football. And just like the things like that, it's like you have your little soft spear. It's like, I'm the one who's like, I've been caving in steel doors in arenas all around the world while you use your little foam pad on the ramp to protect your fist. It's just like,
like
boom, like
absolutely fantastic. Either that, or I'd love to see them book Reigns and Edge. I honestly would like to see that match.
Oh man,
I mean,
that would be a good match.
Good,
spear versus spear.
Just do like
For
an 8-minute match. It doesn't have to be long. Do an 8-minute match. They just spear the crap out of each other, and I mean, why not?
For as much crap as Reigns has gotten, and I agree he's been shoved down our throats for way too long, but the guy has gotten way better than what he was. He's actually a competent worker. Like, he's a good worker, and you can't deny the dude's got charisma.
Totally.
I mean, comes from the same gene pool as The Rock. So, I mean, and it's weird saying gene pool on a podcast, but, here we are.
Well, if you...
I really like your idea of Reigns versus Goldberg because you don't need a title for it.
Exactly.
Like,
and that's the thing. People... That's the thing that I understand that, like, it's sports to an extent. And, like, the titles are obviously important. I'm not saying that. But the thing that I also like is when you just have a storyline that is that good, that you don't need the title. Yeah, sometimes the only title you need, or the only story you need is, hey, I want the title. But, like, you already have a situation where Roman wants to fight Goldberg because he didn't get to. He didn't get to prove himself, or, you can go back, like, I mean, Hogan and The Rock didn't have a title, if I'm right.
Correct.
Like,
you look at Shawn versus Undertaker at WrestleMania, like,
didn't need
a title. Like, so it goes back to, like, the sports entertainment side is always going to shine bigger and brighter than just like the fully like sports-based side, because it's like, well, why do we want to see Rock Hogan? Because you've literally the greatest from the past versus the greatest of the present.
And I know we talk like last week we had a whole freaking conversation about how we want to see like the sport, like it presented as sports and all that. But I think it's the most interesting thing is that it's hard because it is in between, like, where you want both, right? You want the best of both worlds. But that's why I've been saying, like, I think Lesnar is obviously over, and like give me like Lesnar versus Otis, not for a title, just for fun. Or whatever, like insert person here, or I just think that the storytelling aspects could be so interesting with that. Which leads me to a thing that I want to talk about real quick, which is, excuse me. That Mountain Dew came back to haunt me. Which is AJ coming back.
Okay.
What do you guys think about? I mean, last we saw AJ Styles is he was murdered by the Undertaker. Obviously, it's fake. But, like, we're talking about Roman, like just explaining where Roman's been. Like, how do you explain where AJ's been? What do you guys think about that? What is the level at which in WWE, which is not like in New Japan, is completely different because that's more of a sports presentation of pro wrestling, but like in WWE, which is obviously sports entertainment, what do you think about the idea that AJ can get buried alive and then just come back like a few weeks later? Like, I know it's not like they rolled him out in a casket and like opened it up and he came out, like, or
Right.
or going back to the Roman thing, like, do you think in this day and age that you have to explain it? Do you think that people just go along with it? Like, I don't know. I'm just curious your guys' thoughts.
I don't think you have to explain it. I mean, but it's happened throughout history of the WWF, WWE. Guys get buried alive and then they're right back. I mean, like, it's not a permanent thing. I mean, unless, we obviously know that person's retiring after this match, but
Totally.
I mean, I don't know. I think it's too soon to bring AJ back. I think you should have let him have a little time. But I mean, I can understand with the pandemic and everything, Vince is probably sitting there going, "Oh, well, AJ's available. We need star power."
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's way too soon. Because I think it undercuts the impact of the Boneyard match and that finish.
Yes.
And it's like for him not to have like even because like he's gonna come back at some point, like,
Of course.
but it's like why
Right.
not make a big deal of it? Like have a thing like, well, it's too
Yeah.
bad Gallows and Anderson are fired because it'd be nice to be like, hey, the OC has breaking news on AJ Styles. Tune into Raw tonight to find out.
Totally.
And to be like, hey,
right.
he's still alive.
Yeah.
Or like
Yeah.
going back to Money in the Bank, like, what if since they're supposedly doing more of a cinematic shot for the Money in the Bank match, like it's at Titan Towers, what if during the match, like, all of a sudden, like, you see like an old like Monte Carlo like pull up with like purple like dice with bat wings on them, and like AJ Styles in his jeans with his red handkerchief and like his sleeveless cutoff shirt like gets out and he's covered in dirt, and he's like,
Yes.
look at like have him go around the office like trying to find Triple H or Vince, saying like
So,
he
like-
wants revenge on Undertaker. And he's like, what's going on? Like, realizes the match is taking place. And then he's in
And, like,
Money in the
just
Bank.
enters. Like, see, that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't know how to say it other than like I just want wrestling to be more goofy. Like, that's not the right word, but
You want there to be more of the entertainment value to it.
I want stake. I want
Larger
there to
than
be
life.
I want there to be stakes. I think is the thing where it's like I want it to mean something that AJ Styles was buried alive by the Undertaker.
Right.
Like you could, if
and I mean,
from a pure storyline perspective, you could look at it like basically Undertaker killed the OC. I know they got fired, and that's not really what happened, but like you just don't see them on WWE.
He did.
If you didn't know anything about the WWE or about pro wrestling outside of the WWE, and that's all you watched, you would just be like, "Oh, they never came back. Undertaker like killed them. Like that's it." Or
Undertaker threw him off that
yeah,
barn.
exactly.
They're
Luke
dead.
Gallows fell to his death. And so you have like that aspect of it, and like just I want there to be stakes. Like all of a sudden, AJ just comes out to like be in a gauntlet match, and it's just like, why? Like you couldn't think of anything more entertaining to do with like AJ. Like your idea was perfect, Landon. Like that type of thing. Or next time we see John Cena, like I'm sure he's gonna come out, do his hustle, loyalty, respect, salute the camera, let's go, run to the ring, do his whole thing. But like, how cool would it be if the next time you saw John Cena, like he literally was a neurotic mess because he can't reconcile in his head what happened during the Firefly Funhouse match. Like you like I want those types of things to mean something. I think they
Right.
do somewhat of a good job with some of the stuff, like the whole like Sasha Banks and Bailey, like will they, won't they fight type of situation. Like,
Mm-hmm.
Oh, we're just gonna go. We're just we love each other, but we also always trying to fight. Like that seems to have some long term, like, effects and stuff like that. But I don't know. Like I just feels like bringing AJ back at this point, like they could have done something cooler than just like gauntlet match.
It's I heard I want to say it was Edge and Christian on their podcast talked about how desirable it is to have that return pop, and not everybody gets that, and how you're guaranteed when it's done right with a return pop, like you're either going to be the most over person as a face or the most over as a heel in that instant. And it's like,
Mm-hmm.
love them or hate them, like if you use that, like you can make or break a career. Because it's like Roman Reigns, like have him, all of a sudden he shows back up and costs Goldberg the title.
You're gonna like
It's like now he's the most hated guy. Or you have AJ show up and steal the briefcase, and they're like, well, wait a minute, like he wasn't officially in the match. Like,
but he's already signed the contract inside.
He's already
Yeah,
got the briefcase.
like,
Yeah, it's like it's already
he's
happened.
got it,
Like,
so like he owns it, and it's like boom, like we just wrote content for our next several weeks of TV.
100%, and it just feels like they can't.
And
Can they not think? Like, can they not do that? Like, I don't know. Not to sit here and just complain about WWE again, but
It's like,
that would have been a great storyline too. Him coming in and stealing that Money in the Bank briefcase. It's never happened. And then you can play it up for weeks and weeks where Vince is trying to get the briefcase back. And then he opens it up, and guess whose signature is on the bottom line? AJ Styles. Oh, well, our hands are tied now. He's signed the contract. Vince, your name is right here, so that means I have a contract.
or what if, like, again, just pie in the sky, like he gets the Money in the Bank briefcase, and all he wants is revenge on Undertaker. So he's trying to figure out, how can I make this work for me to where I get another match with Undertaker because it didn't go the way I wanted, and like that's all he talks about. And like obviously we as fans know that he's probably not going to get that match again. Like it's probably not going to happen. And then you have to have someone come in and be like, well, you literally cannot. You literally can't.
Hey,
And all he can do is like challenge for a title, right? And so then he's thinking like maybe if I get a title, then I can get revenge on Taker, and like you just like I want there to be stakes. I just want there to be stakes where things matter. That like if something happens on TV, it matters. Because right now I can not watch like a Raw and just read what happened, like in about 5 seconds, and know everything I need to know.
give us a reason to watch.
Jimmy, have you seen the Undertaker Shawn Michaels like retirement match?
No.
You need to watch the build up to that match, because what you just explained from what you want from AJ is what they did with that match.
Okay, perfect. Then maybe I don't need it from AJ.
It was literally Shawn lost at the previous WrestleMania. We didn't see him for like 6 to 8 months. And when he came back because Triple H needed a partner against Legacy. And so they reformed DX. Okay. Had a big DX run where they held the unified tag titles. But the whole time, there's something missing from Shawn. He hasn't said anything about it, but there's been something missing.
Was it his smile?
And finally you find out, yeah, he lost his smile again. And I think they even made that joke too. I think Trips even.
I'm sure.
I think Hunter even went, "What? Did you lose your smile again?" But he eventually comes out where he is just ate up on the fact that he lost to the Undertaker at WrestleMania last year, and that from he goes, "I'm entering the Royal Rumble as a single competitor, so I can win my way to a match with the Undertaker," because I think Taker had the title.
Yeah,
at the time.
did.
Yeah, perfect.
And when he got eliminated from the Royal Rumble, it was like you saw the look on Sean's face where he was like, I'm effed. That was my one shot. And he comes back and he gets back in the ring and just starts super kicking people because he's so mad. Because I think he even super kicks Triple H. Like,
That's amazing.
Yeah, he takes out everybody.
And then eventually, yeah, he takes out everybody that's in the ring. And it's like, we're talking like John Cena, Triple H, like huge names are in the ring. And then from there, he costs Undertaker the title at Elimination Chamber.
He lifts up one of the like floor panels and gets in the ring and super kicks Undertaker. So Undertaker loses his title to Jericho.
Whoa, that is awesome.
It's such a great feud. Like, and of course, Taker and Shawn never like had a bad match.
Yeah.
And I want to say that like they even either got a 4 or 5-star match from Meltzer at one of those 2 WrestleManias. But like,
did they get a 6-star?
It's amazing. They did not. Well, you know, if it was in Japan, it probably would have been 8.
It would have been 8 stars.
If this match was in Japan, you would have given it more stars.
If you want to watch Luke versus Darth Vader, why not just watch Ishii versus Okada? It's the same thing.
Oh, Dave Meltzer.
But anyway, like, that's a tangent, but, you know.
I do have another thing to say about talking about Dave Meltzer, which is, I sent this to both of you guys, but obviously we're in the state of Oklahoma. We are one of the few states who is starting to open back up after the whole Corona thing. I say after the whole Corona thing. Corona's still here.
Still in the middle of
People are still, like, getting sick. It's not like the virus is just going away. That's not how that works. Anyways, our state is opening back up, and Dave Meltzer had basically this to say about Oklahoma is that our governor is looking at bringing MMA, boxing, and wrestling to Oklahoma to help rejuvenate the economy or whatever. And when I sent that to you, Jake, you were very quickly into saying, I'm going to be at every show that comes.
I will wear a latex suit if I have to go watch
just
wrestling.
A hazmat suit?
Like I'm going to come out, in like a hazmat, like, and even have gloves and a mask on underneath my hazmat suit. And on my hazmat suit, it'll say Brothers in Kayfabe podcast, now available on Apple Podcasts, Google Play,
QR code,
all of it.
But
QR code.
I'm curious of a couple things. One is, I wonder if if that's gonna happen. Obviously, like, these companies aren't actually running shows. But I mean, I think I don't know if I'd go to like a Raw or a SmackDown necessarily. I mean, I say that if it comes, I'll probably end up going. But like, you're not going to be able to take me away from an AEW show if it came around.
Right.
Like I would have to go. But it's just so.
I could see smaller companies do it.
Yeah, it's just so interesting though, because I just can't fathom it actually happening and working. I just can't.
Right. And it's like, even if like there's pressure from the governor to like, hey, we've got our own promotions, like, we're just going to focus some more resources into them. It's like, this isn't the place to talk about it. And if you're in the Oklahoma wrestling scene and you want to like come and talk about it, absolutely, we'll give you the opportunity. But it's like, just from my personal encounters, like, Oklahoma, like, man, like, what a, I don't want to say what a letdown, because I don't mean that in a disrespectful way, but it's like, the bar has been set so low as far as, like, hey, like, what do we have to do to have reoccurring quality wrestling shows that make it to where, like, how do we reach out to people that aren't in the wrestling community?
Totally. I mean, it's a hefty question, I think, for sure. But like, if you could tell me that I could go to a quality wrestling show that took place once a like, hey, we're doing our once a month show here in Oklahoma City. Come check it out. Like, I would love to be
It
able
makes
to do
me, Jimmy and I being part of the music industry here, it makes me think of like local music. It's like, how do we get more Oklahomans behind going to shows at 89th Street or even the Tower Theater? It's like that idea of like the only reason you bring in big stars, we talked about this on one of our first episodes, the reason you bring in big stars onto small shows is, hey, that's your attraction to get bodies in the door. And then while they're at that show, that's your time for your local talent to shine and like hook them. It's like, hey,
Exactly.
we're bringing in Blake Shelton to do a show at the Criterion. Hey, we're going to put a local artist up before him to open up. That's his opportunity to try and hook fans. So they're like, hey, that guy was pretty
Totally.
good. I'm going to look him up when I get home.
Yeah, totally.
Right.
It's just, I mean, I've been to one quote unquote local show. But it was a co-sponsored show. The Impact and then
World class
World Class
revolution.
Revolution, which was a fun show. It was a very fun show.
Great food.
Great food. World Class brought in MVP and Chavo versus Chavo Guerrero. That was like their title match that they had that night. It was great. That was a fantastic match to see live. But I would love to see a quality of show here. And it's funny. It's like you hear all the I hear all the stories about like Mid-South being here, or even like, you know, WCCW in Dallas. Obviously, you got the Von Erichs and that kind of thing. Like, and what, like, where is that same quality of wrestling around here? And again, I would like to go and say, like, if you're listening to this and you're a part of the Oklahoma wrestling scene, mad respect to you. Like I'm not saying there's anything bad with the work rate. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with like the people who are involved in the scene. It's more of a curiosity of how do we get those things on the platforms that they need to be
Yeah.
on, right?
How do we take what we have now and try and raise it back to what it used to be? Because there are people in the Oklahoma scene that genuinely are going above and beyond to make that happen.
Oh yeah.
But like with anything, like you have a couple of bad eggs here and there to weigh things down.
Right.
And so I don't know if you guys are cool with it. Like if we have an open invitation to those in the Oklahoma wrestling community
I
to
am down.
be
Yes.
able to like, and it's not even like, hey, we want you to come and debate. It's like, hey, like, what made you want to get involved with Oklahoma wrestling? Like, what's your passion about it? Like, what are your dreams about it? Like, what are
Totally.
some of the
Or-
great stories about it?
Or I'll say, like, if you're involved in Oklahoma wrestling, hit us up on social media for sure, and we would love to hear from you. The other thing I'd say, if you're involved in any sort of local wrestling or bigger whatever, like if you're involved in that, I would love to hear from you, especially right now in this time when there's like not shows going on. Like, what does that look like in your life?
Right.
I would love to talk to people about that because I think people will want to hear that, and so our listeners, you know, could probably glean some knowledge about what it's like out there for these sort of more local wrestlers, as well as I would love to hear those stories. Like, I think it would be so cool to hear about
I mean,
about those things.
I've always said live wrestling is better than no wrestling.
100%.
Like, I will go and enjoy, you know, any local wrestling that there is something on the card for you if you're a wrestling fan.
Yes.
Now, you might have to sit through something that you don't want to see, but, you know, for the most part, wrestling around here is solid. But the problem is that whatever is going on in Oklahoma is not catching your casual fan.
Yeah.
And that's the key to having good wrestling shows, is you have to catch that casual fan that's going to come in and go, you know what? this dude that's here in Oklahoma could whoop anyone's butt in the entire country.
Yeah.
I've got a.
So,
Go ahead, Jake.
you know. I mean, I don't know where I was really going to go from there.
I was going to say,
but,
what
like,
would you guys
just,
think
you
about
know-
this? I was talking to a close friend of mine who's involved in Oklahoma wrestling and spinning around the idea of a OU Texas weekend show of like, hey, here's the best wrestlers from Oklahoma versus the best wrestlers from Texas.
Oh, man.
In
Like,
the parking lot
Up and down the
of
card.
whatever
my
stadium
gosh.
we're playing in.
Here's the thing. I differ from you guys where I really don't give a crap about sports. I would drive in the insanity that is
Okay.
OU Texas traffic, and I would go
So-
to that wrestling show.
Okay, so it's at the Cotton Bowl during the state fair. So the parking lot, that wouldn't work. But they could either rent a space out at the state fair,
Right.
Texas,
Easy.
or even better, there is a place halfway in between here where we're at in Oklahoma City and Texas and the Cotton Bowl, where they have what is called the Bevo Bash. You hear about it on all the radio stations are there.
Okay.
What if they got with the people who are doing the Bevo Bash, which is like, I want to say Friday before the game is when the Bevo Bash happens. What if they got with those people and said, we want to do a wrestling show here. We're going to have up and down the card, Texas, Oklahoma, they fight. Texas, Oklahoma, they fight. Texas, Oklahoma. People would eat that up. And of course you can get your cheap pops, your cheap heat. Maybe this year we do it
Easy.
in Oklahoma. Maybe next year we do it in Texas.
Easy.
Like,
Well, I think it would just be so much fun, and you're building off of that sort of local, that rivalry that exists, obviously, and like you're sort of
for non-sports guys that aren't from this area, there ain't nothing bigger than OU Texas.
yeah.
Like we recreate the
insanity.
Civil War every year.
Literally.
Every year in October.
And it's like one of those things that goes back
It-
to like natural organic storytelling is always going to trump anything man-made, because it's like, hey, here's a natural thing. People from OU or people from Oklahoma hate people from Texas, and people from Texas think they're better than people from Oklahoma. Let's let them fight,
And we
determine who's
completely
better.
ignore Kansas.
Right.
I would like to say, as someone who's lived in all three places, Kansas ain't bad.
There we
I've
go.
lived in
We team
Kansas.
Oklahoma and Texas team up to take down Kansas.
Take that attack.
What is it? It's like,
Kansas is just like peaceful.
you know why
just hanging
Oklahoma's
out.
windy, right? Because Texas sucks and Kansas blows.
Yep, that's right. Oh God.
I mean, I think they're onto something with that, though, Landon. I mean, I really am. I think I think that could benefit both the North Texas promotions and the Oklahoma
Don't
promotions.
leave money on the table. That's all I got to say.
Totally.
Right.
Like we were talking about. Like I would just love to see that sort of, like local bit. I would
Quality.
I would love to be able to go to my local territory and see a good show.
Yeah.
I mean, I know we're not,
And
we're
I'm
not. Listen, we don't have PWG in Oklahoma. I get it.
We don't have AIW or like Chicago wrestling or any places like that.
But like you have even in
yeah, but we could.
easily, and that's the thing is like the talent's here. I think it has to be in a place where people would want to see that.
Mm-hmm. And you've got to have that mainstream attraction to bring him in.
Yeah.
So it's like, hey, Toby
mean-
Keith is going to fight the Oklahoma world champion. Or, hey, Blake Shelton's going to come and do commentary.
Well, I'll put it.
Here comes Bob
I'll put it this
Stoops.
way. There-
Bob Stoops
Honestly.
versus JR in a bull rope match.
Bob Stoops in an XFL versus NFL match. Like, I'll put it this way: like, there was a company that Kaylee and I were driving to a show that we were going to go see. It was going to be our second ever live show, and we went there because they had Hacksaw was going to be there. Halfway like to the show, like I can't remember if Landon, you told me or
It was all you.
okay. Someone like
I
basically it
think
was
you
just
guys
like,
checked like on
we
Facebook.
checked like the show was canceled, and we're like driving to the show, and we didn't get an email. We didn't get anything. So I mean the tickets weren't that expensive, but whatever. So I was like, hey, the show's canceled, and they were like, sorry, show's canceled. We postponed it to this day, a day that literally we couldn't go, we couldn't do it. I was like, okay, no big deal. We'll just get a refund. And they were like, oh, we already sent you a refund. And I was like, no, you didn't. And like I literally couldn't get them to respond to me. So I was just out that money. And it's like that just shouldn't be happening. And like if you get someone as like I say as simple as, it's not like it's a bad thing by any means because it is what sold us on the show. You get Hacksaw to come to the show and do a match. Or you get, I mean, there's so many of those guys, like, I mean, look at all the people who were released. If you told me that, like, Matt Cardona, Zack Ryder was going to be at an indie show in Oklahoma, they, like, booked him for a show, it's like, I want to go do that. Absolutely, I want to do that.
Dude, you could tell me that freaking, what was the goofball, The Ascension is on a show here
and we would go see it
in town. I'll go see that.
Just
I'll go
hear
see
me
that.
out. What if we do a good
They have-
old-fashioned 6-man tag match where we'll just use the Aero Club as an example because they're kind of one of the top Oklahoma tag teams.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, hey, Brian Bosworth is going to team with the Aero Club, and what's going to happen is there's only going to be like a 20-second spot where he gets the hot tag, throws a couple of crappy clotheslines, and hits a scoop slam, and the place is going to come unglued.
Yeah.
Like, that's like, why are we doing stuff like that? That it's like, hey, everyone that loves OU is going to go here.
Totally. Well, I mean, yeah. I mean, I just think, like, there's like, as far as I know, there's just not shows in Oklahoma City that I like, not consistent shows that I've seen. Like, and,
Right.
And I see, like, I try to stay plugged in with wrestling. Like, I'm a wrestling fan, so it's like, I wish I could count on more shows than just when WWE comes to town.
And it's like our local shows,
there's-
it's like the fact, and I totally get that you have to jump through the hoops of like booking, but it's like not having, it's kind of like with a podcast. It's like, what's the death of a podcast? Taking a week off or getting out of schedule. It's like,
Right.
that's the same way with promoting music, with promoting wrestling, with anything. It's
Yeah.
like having that continuity, that consistency of like, hey, this Sunday or like the third Sunday of every month, we're going to have a show.
Yeah, and this is what I want.
Right.
And you know what I would love more than anything? Like I would love to like once a month get on this podcast with you guys and be like, guys, we have to talk about this show that we just saw. It was so good. Like it was
Right.
so great, and like, and again, like
How
the talent is there. It's possible. Like, dude, even okay. Let me tell this story. When we went to that World Class
Impact.
Revolution Impact show, like my wife was wearing a Bullet Club shirt, or maybe I was wearing my Villain Club shirt or whatever, and like we were in the merch line and the Aero Club guy started giving me crap, like just started being like, really, Bullet Club around here, you're gonna wear that here? Like literally just started working me like in that moment, and like that was amazing. Like no, I didn't, you know, like it wasn't the coolest thing that ever happened to me or anything like that, but like that's like such a cool story where I was like, I'm literally waiting in line to meet Chavo Guerrero, and then this dude starts like working me, you know?
that's some carny stuff.
Yeah, it was great, and it like it made me remember, oh, those Aero Club guys, like, yeah, for sure, like, it's great.
Back to your deal about being able to get on this podcast and how great it would be to be like, we went to this show. How great would it be to be putting over local talent here?
Totally.
On a consistent basis on a podcast like this and possibly help some of these dudes get out of Oklahoma and be doing more, but they keep on coming back on that third Sunday. But now they just went and worked a match over in, you know, at PWG, or they just worked a match over in Chicago or, wherever.
I will say there is I won't say his name because I would love to have him on and talk about it, but there's an Oklahoma wrestler who trained at the Black and Brave Wrestling Academy, which is the one Seth Rollins and Matt Brave put on. And so it's like, why Seth Rollins was WWE champion, he was training under him. And it's like,
Ooh, that's exciting.
like he's done a lot more of outside of Oklahoma wrestling. Like he's done a lot of like El Paso and Kansas wrestling. And it's like the potential is there, but like you said, Jake, to have the people to where it's like, hey, like they're going out, and as good as it is for them to be like, hey, like in Oklahoma, like we're proud we've got people, like our guys are wrestling all over. It's like, well, how great is it that a place like in the Northeast is like, hey, like there's a lot of good guys coming out of Oklahoma, or to be on the West Coast and be like, there's a lot of good guys coming out of Oklahoma. And so I think it goes both ways, and I would just love to see more of that focused in on.
And now that obviously I don't think we're going to become like an Oklahoma wrestling podcast, but we're a wrestling podcast that takes place in Oklahoma. And so I want to put over as many good Oklahoma wrestlers as I can find, like whether it be that I want to boo them because they're heels or whether I want them to see them win because they're faces. It just...
And I would love to talk to some of them.
Absolutely. And I think maybe we should try to get that going. Like we should try to reach out to some people.
I think we should.
And see, hey, would you want to come on to this podcast?
There are some connections there.
And talk about Oklahoma wrestling. You guys both probably have more, connections than I do. I'm just a lowly fan, I don't have any connection into that world, but
well, now that we've rambled on about Oklahoma wrestling for like 20 minutes, what wrestling did you guys watch this week?
Almost none. So that's me.
Jimmy.
I watched some Dynamite. I watched some Raw. I watched some SmackDown, but like kind of just fast forward. I didn't get around to much this week, to be honest.
What about you,
I
Landon?
watched, and I posted it in our Facebook group, which if you haven't joined that, we'll give you the details at the end of the show.
For sure.
But the main thing was I watched Terry Funk versus Bret Hart under the banner of ECW. And it's such a great match. If you don't know what that match is, it's the one that's alluded to throughout the entirety of Beyond the Mat. It's also up on the WWE Network, but it's also up on YouTube. You can see my boy Dennis Stamp, who is booked.
Shout out to the Stamp workout routine.
Hey, he's booked as the referee for that main event, and it's just a fun match. Great crowds make great matches, I think. And there's a difference between a great crowd and just like an annoying smart crowd, for sure. Or a dead silent Oklahoma crowd. So that's really what I watched. I'll share a little bit more about this at the end. But I watched a lot of shoot interviews this week.
Yes.
Jake, what did you watch?
Interviews. So, I was on the Jimmy train this week, not watching any wrestling because, he had video games to play or something. I don't know.
Life finds a way, That's why.
Life finds a way. But I watched Dynamite last week, and, it's good. Lance Archer is way over in my book, but,
I would agree with you on that.
So is Dustin Rhodes. That dude, literally like fine wine, gets better and better and better each week. But today, I went down a rabbit hole.
I like where this is going.
And it all started with a video on Facebook called Eddie Guerrero is the greatest cheater of all time. And it was literally a supercut of all the ways Eddie Guerrero cheated to win matches. I know Landon's seen a ton of this. Jimmy, you might not have.
Not necessarily.
But like, I've never been a huge Eddie Guerrero mark. I love his work. He's an amazing worker. Like one of the greatest of all times, like Mount Rushmore worker. But the dude also knew how to make a very entertaining ending to a match. And one of those was, and he did this a couple times, he would pull a move on his opponent to knock out the referee on accident. Okay. And as we all know, for some reason, wrestling referees, like, you could touch them with a finger and they're going to get knocked out. They're just like the most, useless
They're
people
feeble.
in the
They've
world.
compromised immune systems.
They definitely need to be self-quarantining.
Roman Reigns.
Yeah, Roman Reigns evidently should be a referee.
What if that's how they brought him back?
So
I'm just saying. Anyway, sorry. Go ahead.
one of the best ones, and now I can't even think of who he was facing. But I know one of them was Kurt Angle, and he did this to Kurt Angle, but it's not the one that I'm thinking of. He knocks the ref out, right, on accident.
Okay.
He like does an Irish whip to his opponent and sends his opponent into the ref. While this happens, Eddie pops up and has this like smile on his face, like, oh, now it's time to work. And hops out of the ring, goes and grabs a steel chair, and is like waiting for the ref to start stumbling up. You think he's about to clobber this dude. He takes the steel chair, hits the mat, tosses it to his opponent, and then falls to the ground.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
And the ref
Wow.
gets up and looks at his opponent, who's still holding the steel chair, and is like, the ref is basically like pointing at both of them, like, and disqualifies the guy.
That's so good.
So, and Eddie, like, it's funny because the ref like turns away from Eddie at one point, and Eddie just like completely selling the steel chair hit, pops his head up and gives this like little wink, and then goes right back down.
So good.
And it's like, he was the master of the little things. Like, his ring psychology was the greatest. But it was a supercut of him doing stuff like that. Of course, there was the time that he was facing Kurt Angle and laced down his boot so that when Kurt Angle went for the ankle lock, he lost his boot. So Kurt was just like giving the ankle lock to a boot.
That's good.
And, Eddie goes over. I saw a highlight video of when Eddie won the title against Brock, which I completely forgot when he won the WWE title. It was from
Yeah,
Brock.
I've actually watched that whole pay-per-view.
It's a great
That's
match.
a really, really good match.
And it makes me miss Eddie. Like, I've never been the guy that, like, obviously I knew the impact of him dying and everything. Like, it changed wrestling. But, like, imagine if that guy was able to live out his career. Like, he would still be working somewhere.
I could see him still being like, I could see him being in the Rey Mysterio spot.
Right.
Like,
And then I topped it off with watching, speaking of Mysterio, watching Eddie versus Rey Mysterio Halloween Havoc 1997.
there you go.
You've seen this one, right?
Yes.
The title versus mask.
Yeah.
And the brilliant part of that is Ray is putting his mask on the line, but literally sews it to the bodysuit that he's wearing to the ring. So, like,
So good.
Eddie literally has to rip it off of him. It's beautiful. It's great. I love that so much. Because, like, if I'm a luchador, I'm doing something like that. Like, you can't get my mask off of me. It's attached to my entire body.
Yeah. What a crazy uh episode this has been so far. Uh the fact that we're nearly 2 hours in and we're just now hitting the
I know.
our what we watched. But on that note, as we're starting to wrap up, we want you guys to know, like, we want to hear what you're watching this week. You guys hear what we're watching every
Totally.
week, and through this Facebook group, we want you to be able to hear. We want to know what you're watching.
Yeah. And hey, I'll go ahead and say it. As someone who is fairly new to wrestling, send me things to watch. I would love that. Like, obviously, like, don't send me 15 hours worth of wrestling to watch a week or something like that. But like, I would love to hear people's favorite matches and stuff. Like, hey, this like really like I had no idea I should watch Van Dam versus Cena at one night or one night stand 2006, and I watched that match. It was a great match. So like, yeah, send me stuff like that. I have a couple things that I'm going to watch this week. But yes, I'm always interested to hear what people want me to watch. But yeah, what a fun episode of just like talking about random things. It's always funny how that works.
And the fact that next week we'll get to talk about, like, what the Money in the Bank corporate ladder, climb them up, beat them up, multi-story
Yeah.
match is going to be.
I'm so interested and intrigued. And honestly, if WWE wants me to watch every pay-per-view, just make it to where it's like every pay-per-view has a cinematic aspect
Right.
to it, and I will watch it.
Right.
I know, Landon, you mentioned shoot interviews. I don't know if you want to talk about shoot interviews a little bit, but we had talked about maybe like discussing what we thought about them, or we could save it till next
I think
week.
let's do this for next week. Let's talk about shoot interviews, and there's some infamous ones out there. So in our Facebook
Yes.
group, which is Brothers in Kayfabe Podcast on Facebook,
Yeah.
all you got to do is just go to it and then click join, and we'll get you all part of that. But share some of your favorite shoot interviews. There's a lot on YouTube,
Or shoot interview
or
moments.
shoot interview moments specifically
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
Like, there are some just gold ones out there. I've watched some crazy ones. Shout out to High Spots Network for providing some incredible ones. But I go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I always appreciate. We can talk about it more next week, of course, but I always just appreciate the classy ones versus the terror. Like, I want to hear like really high quality stories, not just sort of garbage. Like,
Yeah, not the, like, okay, like, which diva got around the most backstage. It's like, no, like,
yeah, I don't care about
like
that.
I want to hear Vader talk about the
I mean-
time his eye popped out of his skull,
Exactly.
or like I want to
I mean, I
go
don't.
ahead, Jake.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was
No,
just
go
gonna say,
ahead.
like, that's the kind of stuff like I want to hear, or people that it's like, hey, like, did you hate Hulk Hogan? And it's like, no, like, I loved him because I knew if I was on the card with him, like, I was going to be making way more money. Like, that's the stuff I love to hear about.
And like I don't like personally, like, it's interesting to hear some of the stories. Like, obviously the one that I think of, which wasn't a shoot interview, but it was when CM Punk went on Colt Cabana's podcast
Yeah.
and basically explained everything that was going on in the background. But like, that's a rare occasion of me liking something where a wrestler is just crapping all over somebody.
Totally.
But
Well, I
like,
think about like
I personally like whenever they're like, this is what was going on, man. Like, we were just having a fun time.
or like I
you
think about
know.
like when Moxley went on Talking to Jericho. Like, that was a fantastic episode of that podcast. Obviously, again, not like a traditional shoot interview, but
Just getting that background information, that
Yeah, it
additional
was-
context.
it was really good. Like I said, I'm less interested in people airing other people's dirty laundry, but
But it's always nice to get, like, we hear one
It's
side of
fun.
the story, so it's nice to get the other individual
Yeah.
side of the story.
it's kind of like
Exactly.
recently The Rock talked about the Rock Hogan match, and then Hogan talked about it.
Yeah.
And they kind of had a little bit of a differing and it was
Opinion
funny
on
to
it.
see that. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I think that's everybody's homework for this next week. Is let's all come prepared next week to
Yeah.
talk about either some shoot interview moments or just like some podcast moments that are similar.
I have a 10-hour Ric Flair shoot, so maybe I got to watch that before next week.
You have to. I'll just say this as we wrap up. Some of the news I alluded to last week. I'm just going to go ahead and go public with it.
Okay.
I have become the audio producer for the Hannibal TV. You might have seen some of their stuff on YouTube. If you haven't, there's some great avenues for you just to get some interviews. Just like not even just shoot interviews, but just genuine like journalistic ones. Like, hey, like Sid Vicious, how was it when you were trying to work out your deal of coming over to WWF from WCW, and then when you decided to go back? Just some cool things like that. So I encourage you to check him out. He's got over 100 million views throughout the channel, and as someone who's now a part of the team working on it, it would just mean a lot to me. And who knows, maybe I can convince my boss to come on here one day.
Hey man, that'd be fun.
That'd be dope.
I mean, I think it's really cool that we started this podcast, and then like you have this sort of connection you've cultivated with
The opportunity.
with this guy, and that opportunity to do that. And I think more than anything, it'll just be fun to see like what stories come out of it. Like, I don't think that's the only thing that'll come of this. Like, I don't think that it's just gonna end there. But like, even if it did just end there, like that's super cool. Like,
Totally.
So, yeah.
Well,
I'll share some plugs if you
Go
want
for
to go
it, yeah.
down that route. Unless Jake,
do
do
it.
anything else to add?
No, man. I was gonna tell you I'll send that Eddie Guerrero supercut that I saw because I think you'll really enjoy it.
I'll watch that.
I mean, plug away. It's time for some plugs.
Okay. First plug, as always, is for my other podcast, Date Bit. My wife and I talk about video games. This week, we just uploaded an episode all about Lost, the TV show Lost, as well as the video game Lost.
what about the board game?
We didn't talk about the board game. Oh my gosh, we do have a board game, a Lost board game. Shout out to Salvation Army in Edmond, Oklahoma, $6. Brand new Lost board game. I also found Song of the South on VHS. Just saying. You be the judge. Good thrift store or not, I don't know. Yeah, so we talk about Lost, the show. We talk about the video game that is terrible. I literally titled the episode Kaylee's obsession with Lost and the super bad video game that's based on it, or something like that. So yeah, that was our podcast this week. Check it out. These podcasts have kind of been in the works. Like we recorded these like weeks ago, so we're both getting excited to sort of record some more episodes for Date Bit and get that going. But that's my plug.
Landon, what about you? I know you've got
Yeah,
something tonight.
all I've got is by the time that you watch this or you listen to it, it would have already happened. But I'm going live on the ACM at UCO student organization page. I'm an alumni from the Academy of Contemporary Music here in Oklahoma, and I'm doing a 30-minute live streamed concert from the comfort of my home studio / bedroom / wrestling dungeon. But also, I have a very public email, landonbumgarner@gmail.com. If you want to make your podcast streams come true, then by all means, hit me up and let's see if we can make that a reality. Jake, what about you?
We'll make sure to share that concert into the Facebook page too for our listeners. That way y'all can hear the many talents of Mr. Wrestling.
And I'll just say
there.
this.
He's, probably...
As a wrestling fan, you're like, well, why do I want to hear a singer-songwriter set? Because there's a song called Rapunji off of Terry Funk's The Great Texan album, which was a Japanese exclusive vinyl, as well as an original song called Brother Me Softly. So there's some wrestling for you.
There is always some wrestling with whatever Landon does. Like, believe me, it's inescapable when you're around Landon
Believe that.
Baumgartner. But believe that. You can follow me at Real Jake Keel on Twitter. Make sure to follow us as well at Kayfabe on Twitter to watch our to get our personal feed. We're also on Instagram now with Brothers in Kayfabe, at Brothers in Kayfabe on Instagram. Go join the Facebook group. The Facebook group, we're having a fun time with, we've got, I think, 22 members now, and we're trying to grow that number. Like, we just want to talk to people, and, y'all might bring something to us that we've never seen before. So, like, that would be fantastic. Best Movie Ever podcast. Go listen to it. We're making stuff over there. I that's my, just kind of whenever I want to have fun podcast. Sit and be alone for a little while and collect my thoughts on a movie. But go listen to that. Me and old Jimmy over here were discussing some crossover episodes, and of course, Mr. Wrestling Landon Baumgartner was on Best Movie Ever for Jingle All the Way, which was one of our best episodes.
We've talked about maybe Date Bit and Best Movie Ever teaming up to watch some certain video game inspired movies.
Right.
So yeah.
And then of course the eventual Brothers and Sisters of Kayfabe Date Bit crossover.
I think
everything
coming up here in the next few weeks. We should maybe have some sisters on this podcast, and just
I think
get
so
a
too.
Take of current wrestling thoughts of some sisters. So,
it's always a great time with the brothers and the sisters and everyone in Kayfabe. We're not shoot brothers, but we're pretty close. We're working brothers, but that's it for me, guys. Do y'all have anything else to add?
Nope.
No.
All right. Well, we're gonna sign off now. We join that Facebook group. We wanna talk to y'all on that Facebook group. It's fun. It's Brothers in Kayfabe podcast. It's public. I'm only leaving it public for so long because we're trying to build that fan base, but soon you can invite people. But we're gonna go ahead and get off of here, and let's get it too sweet, guys.
Too sweet.